Hello, I'm Callan.
And I'm Honey Panda Bunny.
And today we'll be giving our initial impressions of the new Higurashi 2020 anime. So originally, we were going to cover just the first episode. However, due to time constraints, we just were able to loop this in with episode 2, which I think actually proved quite fruitful, because while I quite enjoyed the first episode, there wasn't much to talk about. It was like a fairly fine introduction, while episode 2 I think brings a lot of questions and what they're potentially doing with this series. So, what were your first impressions of, say, the first episode?
So, when I was watching the first episode, I thought it was really good. It was very picture by picture to the original first one.
Yes.
And at first I thought, oh, well, this is just going to be a reboot of it, but a very pretty reboot as it goes. But then obviously, luckily waiting, that added a bit more interest onto the episode and made me like the first episode maybe even a little bit more than I did the first one. And we had some context from the second episode. But yeah, it was nice to also, when you were initially going into the first episode without the context of the second one, seeing it through that fresh lens was really nice. It
was a fine reintroduction to the series and the characters. Obviously, the original was 2006, and then I believe the second was then a year later in 2007, and then there was a few OVAs after that. In the public eye, it's been quite a while since Higurashi has appeared on the big screen, and I will say that it's so nice to see the characters again. Reina is the biggest ball of energy. I love seeing her on screen, and the other characters as well. Rika's still absolutely adorable. Satoko, the ho laugh is great, and Mion, and I can't wait to see all the other characters appear again. I'm really excited to see that.
I absolutely was so waiting for Rika again. I love her little nipa, and it's so adorable seeing all those, I think, very old-time kind of characteristics for characters and being able to see them brought back into like a modern age.
It's definitely
really nice.
Interesting seeing like this early 2000s style in now this 2020. There's something that's slightly off about it, but I kind of also appreciate it as well, seeing like these older anime styles in this newer one. And I will say that the art style is very different to what came before. These characters are far more cutesy and rounder. They've got like the white edges around them, and I will say it does take some getting used to. However, I'm not actually that upset about this, because I think that as you see in the opening scene in which you see Keiichi doing some redecorating in his room, shall I say, the two styles will contrast to make something really interesting later. The violence later is going to be so much. I'm fascinated to know what it's going to look like.
So when I look at the art style, if you consider the old one, it looks very 80s-esque, and it gives it that age because obviously it's set in that time period.
I do think the old art style, I actually still appreciate the old art style, but it is a little dated now. They've got like the really big heads, like especially Reina.
She's got more hair than head.
Yeah, more hair than head.
But with the new one, the way I've seen it now is, if you think about it this way, the old one shows its time and it makes you appreciate it a bit more and gives you that nostalgia, whereas can you imagine like 20 years in the future looking back on this series and being like, oh, this style makes me really nostalgic? It's quite similar to the art style that's around now, if that makes sense, for most animes, so I think it almost lends into it to be able to see that time portion, that nostalgia for it later on.
And I will also touch up on the animation here as well, because I actually thought in the first two episodes, there are some really nice animations. In particular, in the treasure hunt, the bits with Satoko and Keiichi are kind of verbally and sparring with the pranking. And as well in dance in the second episode, we get to see the performance at the festival is actually very well animated and very gorgeous. I did notice in the first episode that there was little bits. There's Keiichi when he gets out of bed. He's got like his little
tiny
awkward
feet.
legs. There's a little bit of janky animation, and it was noticeable, but I found later on it wasn't something that kept cropping up in my mind. So there is like this little bit of worry with the animation since I'm seeing it this early, but at the same time it was only a small negative for the overall episode.
And I mean, for context, for the time period we're in now, it's part of COVID at the moment, so I'm going to give them a pass on that because they're probably animating some of it during the whole COVID situation. But yeah, I noticed them too, but I'm going to give it a pass for now because I'm under the assumption it's going to get better.
And I will say as well at the end of the episode, because the episode is fairly faithful, I would say, from the first scene. Like if you were to watch the first anime episode again, it's mostly this episode, but something that I really liked was at the end of the first episode when they're in the garbage heap and Reina's gone off to find the weapon to help break Kenta-kun out. We hear the music, the original soundtrack, and when I first watched it, I did get chills again because that song is so nostalgic and it's such a good song and it just gets you in the right mindset, and it was the perfect outro to the first episode.
And it just gets you so excited. It's like that nostalgia again. again. I think everything about the first episode is to lead you in, almost like leading you in with that nostalgia to trick you, and then in the second episode it's like, haha, actually. But I think it did really well with that. And I mean, for us, when we were watching the original anime, obviously with me, I found it first, fell in love with it. As I love horror, suggest it to you, and then we both fell in love with it all over
devoured this
again.
series. I watched the first season, second season, all the OVAs. I've even watched the movie. I don't recommend watching the movie. It's not very good. But yeah,
and
I really got attached to the
characters. It really reminds you of why you love the series so much. So I think it did everything right in the first episode of setting you up for that nostalgia, and then obviously subverting those expectations in the second episode.
So at the moment, we've kept fairly quiet about the plot. In a way, when I first watched this episode, since I considered it a remake, I was initially unsure about opening it with giving away the secret of Higurashi in a way, because I thought it would be quite fun if, for a new fan, to come into this fairly blind, and then they'd be hit by the ending. With episode 2, we now know that there's more going on here than we initially thought, and we've kept it light on spoilers now, but we're going to go into spoilers in episode 2.
So here's your spoiler warning.
So one thing I really like about episode 2 is it gets straight into it. Literally, as we open up, it's Rika and Honyu, big spoiler there. You know, in the original, Rika in the first arc is, she's just a normal child. You don't suspect anything. And then in the second arc, stuff is happening where it start to suspect things. And then eventually it's revealed that there's more to Rika than we initially thought. But then literally at the start of episode 2, we're straight in. It's Rika, it's Honyu.
She's there.
We're in like the shards of the many timelines of Higurashi. And we get dropped right into it that apparently this isn't just a remake, but this is potentially a stealth sequel. It seems that, the Rika we see in the plane of existence is teenage Rika, or an older version of Rika, and something has happened to her and she's being sent back. She's having to relive it. She's got to relive it again. She thought she escaped.
She's like, I'm done with this. Oh wait, what? I'm back. She even says like, again, you're gonna get like the.
She's lived for it 100 times, and now she's got to go for it one more time. And Honyu doesn't know anything. But Rika's one thing I really like is Rika's like, I know the secrets. I know who killed me. I'm interested because this isn't gonna go how Rika thinks. That she knows everything and that she's going to eat to prevent it. There's more going on.
Because, if you think about the original series, it took so much. I think it's like the second to last one where she tells everyone everything and it still goes wrong.
Yeah, it takes, and then another arc after that.
It's a really, really long time, yeah. So it's really interesting to see what's going to come here. And with the being, stealthed into it actually being a sequel, a lot of places actually put that it was Higurashi and then in brackets new.
Yes.
So I'm really wondering
what the title of this is called. There's the full title, I can't remember it off by hand. But then this has Go at the end, which I believe translates as karma.
Well, there you go.
So whose karma is that? Who knows? And then we get a new opening, and I'm a little sad that they won't be retaining the nostalgic original opening because I really love that, and I wouldn't mind if they were to reuse it. However, I will say that the song they got, which is called I Believe What You Said, is perfect for this.
So good. It feels so modern.
It sounds good. Yeah. It sounds creepy. The visuals are great as well. There's like the weird TV like crackly effect. We get visuals, and we get Rika running through the forest to the
shrine.
Yeah, and then the gate opening, and there's maybe a new character in the opening.
Yeah.
I'm unsure because it's very stylized. There's like the color, there's the girl who's pulling off her bow, and it might be a character that we already know, but it could also be a new one. I'm not sure.
I think it.
I saw some people theorizing because there's also Umineko, which is, I believe, a sequel series to Higurashi, and Rika has Bern Castell, who actually does make an appearance in the original Higurashi right at the end. So I don't know if there's like crossover or this is a new character. Who knows where they're going to go with this series? It's very exciting. Halfway through the episode, I would say about is Keiichi and Reina have gone back to the garbage heap. They're trying to get Kenta-kun out of the garbage. Keiichi, and he's got the cleaver, the cleaver that Reina is infamous for, and he's wailing on the thing, but then he gets flashes back to the original arc, the thing that we saw at the start of episode 1, which originally I wanted them to cut just for new fans, but now I realise that there was a purpose there to have it. Seemingly he remembers, he's getting visions of previous timelines, and it leads me to believe that these arcs that I think we are going to get all the arcs that came before, but I think they're going to be changed just slightly,
a little bit, yeah.
Similar to how if you've ever played Resident Evil and then Resident Evil Remake challenges your memories of the series, And I think something very similar is going to happen here. We're going to think, oh, well, we already know how this arc concludes. And then I think there's going to be twists. There's going to be, oh, you thought that Keiichi was going to be the one that goes crazy in this arc, but psych, it was one of the others.
Yeah.
So I think that is where they're going. Maybe it is going to be fairly fateful, but there definitely is more going on here.
Yeah, I think, like you said, it is going to be pretty, to an extent, faithful to it, but also I'm hoping that with some later arcs with Shion and Mion, maybe the tables turn and the other one goes crazy instead. So we get a little bit of, like, change within that, but we're just going to have to wait and see for those.
So towards the end of the episode, we have them attend the festival. We have the 5 of them together. We have the photographer, Jiro Tomatake, who was in the first episode, playing his initial role where he introduces Keiichi the idea that there's more going on to the town than he originally thought, the idea that there was a murder. He appears again, and obviously there's the interesting scene because Rika already knows he's partly responsible for what's about to happen, but she doesn't say anything. She kind of just gives him a pat on the head.
I think what she was doing is trying to make him feel guilty.
Well, the thing is she knows that he's a good person, because you find, even in the original series, like, he's just a soldier. He's just doing his task. He doesn't, if I remember correctly, Mio, who also appears in this episode shortly, he doesn't know the full plan that all this is going on. He just assumes this is research, if I remember correctly. He doesn't realize that people are going to die. So I think it's Rika also knowing that, you know, he's a good person, and that she's trying to encourage him to don't follow the path that you're currently on.
But yeah, I think that was my take on it, of her showing him like, oh look, I'm just innocent, I'm cute. You don't want to hurt someone innocent in this, do you? By proxy.
Yeah.
So I think it was her almost setting emotion already into place. But that's also obviously just a bit of a theory on that.
I will also bring up as well that I really like the comedy of Higurashi. Like, it's not just this original series, the comedy in the original this one as well. You get the scene here with them at the festival and they're all like goofing around, eating. They're a club and they all challenge each other.
It's nice.
There's
a nice break.
There's also the really fun scene in the first episode where they're on the treasure hunt, and then it's Satoko and Rena running to get the treasure.
And then this one
and then she drops the pots and pans on her, and then later Rena gets her back with the KO punch box, which was hilarious. I loved it.
And then the second one, you get the zombie run. And
it's so amazing that the series can go from like wacky comedy, goofy stuff to serious dark matters very quickly, and it is the reprieve that you kind of need in this. You know, if this was all dark, all violent, all so the time, edgy, it would drain on you so much. But it's countered so nicely with these characters.
I also think the extreme differences between the almost like horror to comedy lends itself within each one.
It adds to the horror.
They complement each other really nicely.
It adds to the horror, you know, and you get the scenes with like Rena as like being this ball of sunshine, and then you remember, oh yeah, okay, she like caves her face in with a baseball bat.
And it's like, oh damn, yeah. It kind of gives you that slap back to reality, but also then you get the like fun parts again. So it's equally fun and scary at the same time.
And then we come to the end of the episode with Rika doing her dance, which you believe wasn't
I can't remember, but I don't feel like you ever see it fully.
I believe in the anime you don't see it.
Yeah, in the anime I don't think we've ever seen the full dance before, but that I could also just be misremembering.
Disclaimer, we've never played the visual novel.
Yeah,
it is something I would like to do eventually, but I've just not had the time.
But yeah, it was nice to be able to see that in full. I'm hoping I'm not misremembering this.
It was really cool to see it.
Yeah, it was really nice to be able to see it, because I feel like in the previous timelines they all run off and have to go and do something while she's doing it.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know, I could be misremembering, but I'm pretty sure they have to go and do stuff.
Yeah, there's the scene with Keiichi, Tomatake, Mio, and I can't remember, I think it's Mion or Reina, and they go into the shrine and they're kind of exploring. And I think that in the original, I believe, is what feeds Keiichi's paranoia more. The very end, we see Mio. It appears to be that she also knows more is going on than anyone. So I have theorized that Mio is going to be a villain in this still, but I don't think she's going to be the main villain. I think she's going to be like the face, but then there's going to be something greater. Something greater is going on here, because you know in the original, Mio works for the company Tokyo, and there's the woman above her. I can't remember her name at the moment, but she's the one that gives Mio the funding. Tokyo is never dealt with as an organization, or never mentioned kind of after the events. So it could be that maybe it's Tokyo. I don't think so, because they're this Japanese behind-the-scenes evil corporation. But who knows? Who knows? That's just another theory I'll throw out.
So we're going to go into some theories now that we both have. For me, with my theories, I actually have two main ones at the minute. Obviously, I've got a couple of bits of evidence for them, but we never know if it's actually going to come true. So my first one is with the memories and the flashbacks that they're all getting. So a lot of the time when it comes to Keiichi and Reina, they'll have these like paused moments moments where they're kind of looking like longingly, or something seems like it's going on in their head. As we've seen, Keiichi is remembering previous timelines, and with Reina, she's having these bouts of stopping, acting really strange so far. So my theory is that they're all actually remembering different timelines, but they're remembering the worst parts of each timelines, or remembering them wrong and not getting the full information from them. So Keiichi's only remembering the bat smashing, so maybe Reina's only remembering her being smashed by the bat or something bad happening, so she's keeping close watch on Keiichi.
I could see it also being a case where Rika tries to prevent. She already knows this is what happens in this timeline. If I do this, I can prevent it. But then that might cause other
like the
bad
butterfly
things
effect.
happening.
Yeah.
That could be what's
so it's like really interesting to think maybe they do actually know what's going on, but it's all in the wrong order. And then my second one is that when Rika's eyes go red, she's within that mindscape with Hanyu, and also that Rika that we've seen previously in that first episode, minus the part where she's waiting at the end with the red eyes, is actually the Rika from that timeline. She's completely innocent, doesn't know what's going on, and then after the eye situation happens, that's when the future or past Rika takes over that body and becomes that Rika, if that makes... I know it's really complicated,
yes.
But she kind of takes over that body and is now proceeding forward.
So I have one theory, and it was a theory I had over the course of episode 2, but then that proceeded to get debunked by the end of the episode, but I think I'll mention it anyway just because I thought it was interesting. I thought that what it was going to be is that at the end of the original Higurashi, there's the epilogue where Bern Castell, which I believe is Rika's future self that appears in Umineko, she goes back in time and she sees Miyu as a child, who I think is called Miyoko then. And it's when she's at the bus station and she gives her the choice to live or die. Can't fully remember it, but I believe she ends up choosing where she goes with her parents on the bus. But due to some circumstances, they don't die in an accident. Instead, they get to live. But the idea is that she chose death for, the version that we knew. Miyu dies, but Miyoko lives. So I thought that this was going to be that timeline where Mio, she puts what's in motion for what causes for most of the timelines. I thought this was going to be a situation where at the end of the festival, Rika was going to approach Tomotake and say, oh, where's Miyu? Or, where's your girlfriend? And he was going to say, who are you talking about? And then it was like, oh God.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that was quickly debunked right at the end of the episode where we see Mio. I'm wrong, but
it's a cool theory.
I thought I'd throw it out there because I thought it was quite interesting.
It's always fun, the things that your mind makes up while you're watching and trying to, because obviously with the original Higurashi, when you're initially going into it, you're not realizing that it's an anime where you puzzle piece stuff together. So when you're going into this season, obviously you're going, oh, I've got to put all the puzzle pieces together and put it all together and make sure that it all makes sense. But already right at the beginning, the anime is throwing you off, which I think is the entire point of Higurashi. For another theory, this one is really loose and it's no solid evidence to it, but in the opening there's a girl that's ripping off her ribbon and she's got like short hair, and it could just be one of the main cast and the lighting, but I like to think that it's Mio, like a younger version of herself potentially, but we will never know, until
it is possible
happens.
That we will see Mio younger. If they're doing flashbacks like they did in the original, we will most likely see younger Mio.
I do have that as a theory so far.
Thank you for listening to us ramble about Higurashi. It's something that we both really enjoy, and we hope that you'll enjoy our theories and our thoughts on it. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much.
Goodbye.
Bye.